Election Day is November 5th, and we're sitting down with Norwalk's candidates for Common Council and Board of Education, and we're asking them for their qualifications, their opinions, and their visions for Norwalk. Just tell us why you're running for council and why you want to take on this challenge.
To answer that question with any facility, I really need to tell you just a little bit about my background, which has been fairly diverse. I've lived in many different countries. Actually lived there, from, high quality Western countries to much, much poorer places. And when you do that and you don't speak the language, you learn navigation and negotiation, and you learn to respect people's different ideas and ideals. I've worked in the background of politics for ever since I came to this country, which was 44 years ago, and so I worked on the Equal Rights Amendment when I came to this country. I've been very interested in working for women's equality, and that is getting better, but there are a few glitches on the way. I've worked at the VA in the paraplegic ward, as volunteer activities. Locally, I've, as I said, done the background stuff for political campaigns, from licking the envelopes to walking the streets. I say I'm a street walker. And so I finally think that I need to be a little bit more on the front lines. People need to know not just what you stand for, but what you stand against, but what you stand for, and they need to know that you can negotiate and not be constantly negative. I think we need a new formula that's positive and inspiring and creative. And I think I can bring, with my background, some of that to the City Council.
How familiar are you with the way the city budget process works? And when it comes to the city budget, what are the sort of things that you think the city should prioritize?
Well, I do know that the city charter sets out the way the city interacts with its boards and commissions and the mayor. The Common Council sets the rules, basically, and it has control over the property and the finances. The mayor is the leader and organises the day-to-day running of the city. What I would like to see is a greater interaction between the various boards and commissions and the Common Council and the mayor as far as the budget is concerned. We do a lot of arguing about 5% of the budget, but we don't look back and say, there's that other 95%. What are we doing with that? Are we automatically just saying, well, the Department of Public Works needs that? And I know that the Common Council can only, it sets a cap, but the Board of Education has its own budget, and the Boards of Estimates and Taxation, they set the budget. There's no line item veto for the Common Council. So that I do know. But I do think that a better interaction with more information and communication between departments would definitely facilitate what's the most important thing, and everything else comes from that, of course, is the budget.
Sure. When it comes to the budget, say the budget gets really tight, where are the areas that you would like to see funding secured first? And I guess, nobody likes to trim anything, obviously, but if you had to look at areas that you'd have to trim, what were the ones that you would say, no, we're not trimming here?
I would say education. I'd like to see all the children in Norwalk, and I mean all, receive the best possible education. Those are our future citizens. They are our future. In particular, I'm very concerned about the kindergarten through third grade reading ability. If a child can't read with reasonable facility by the time it's in third grade, that sets a precedent for what's going to happen for the rest of its school career. So it's kind of like fixing a hole in the roof. You get a hole in the roof, you fix it, and you don't have big problems
Sure.
to 10 years down the line. If you fix this problem, the children will have far less problem. We won't have to have so much remedial counselling and all those very expensive things that do cost a lot in our schools.
Sure.
So that would be, and the second thing I think is really important is establishing a better jobs program in Norwalk. We need to be much more aggressive about it.
In terms of District E's needs, what are the things that you'd like to focus on coming from District E? Is there anything in that area that is a little more pressing than, say, in Ward B or District A?
Probably not. It's a reasonably affluent area compared to other areas of Norwalk. But because I've lived in Norwalk for 34 years and I like it. I really like it here. I've lived in a lot of places. I like its diversity. I like its culture. I like its working harbour, its rivers, its parks, its beaches. But during that 34 years, I have seen a deterioration in the care that we give this city. There are, despite the recent local ordinance, blight ordinance, which has been far too long in coming, there are broken sidewalks, overgrown vegetations, incredible amounts of litter, and roads that are in very bad need of repair. That they should be better attended to, in my opinion. Now, since I'm not on the council or the BET, that's a statement that I would have to make very general, but I would go in that direction of taking care of it. There's been a proliferation of big box stores, which has vastly increased traffic, while not really increasing the revenue that comes to Norwalk. The jobs in general are fairly low paying, except for supervisors, and it doesn't really help the property taxes of the city, which I think we need to use our land to do. There's been lots of projects that have been begun and begun and begun and begun, and they're still not, still haven't come to fruition. So I think that that's a matter that needs to be attended to as far as our priorities in budget.
The relationship between the council and the city's mayor. What do you think their relationship should be like?
Well, I think there's an obvious answer to that. It should obviously be cordial at all times. It should be understanding, and as I mentioned previously, the city charter does set out what the actual parameters are for that relationship. But having grown up in a war, I'm a great believer in diplomacy at every level, and an effort at understanding other people's ideas, not immediately dismissing them because they don't happen to fit in with your particular pattern. You need to examine things very carefully, I think, and establish what priorities really are. We need to have, as I said, a better interaction between the council and the various boards and the mayors. And if eventually you can't agree, then you must politely agree to disagree. We all have to do that at some point in our life. I have good experience of that. And I think the last thing is that I believe that the voice of the people is important. That the voice of the people is important, and the voice of their government is important. We need to make sure that all the projects and priorities that we do establish are well known, their costs are well known, how we're going to do them are well known. And I think it's important now, because there's such dissension in all our levels of government, to establish a better understanding of how government works, to get back the goodwill that government has, and that to demonstrate that with good government you can have a better life, a better community.